What happened when man learned to decipher divine messages encrypted in the clouds? On a June morning both brighter and more still than the calendar usually allowed, a breakthrough rippled through the digital undercurrents of human civilization. In a research facility nestled between the dense spruce woods of Alberta and the solemn hush of glacial lakes, an international consortium of scientists, theologians, and rogue codebreakers made an announcement that would never be formally televised. For once, silence was not only golden, but necessary. They had done it. Not just AI-enhanced weather prediction, not even predictive coding of climate changes. This was something altogether different. They had learned to read the sky, not in the meteorological sense, nor even with the nostalgic curiosity of ancient soothsayers, but to truly read it. The project began innocuously enough a private collaboration between climate scientists and a defense contractor specializing in pattern recognition systems. Satellites had long been feeding reams of cloud imagery into sophisticated neural networks. Initially, the goal had been practical improved storm tracking, resource deployment, early warnings. But then the patterns began to form. At first, it was dismissed as data hallucination, glitches in the interpretation layer. Yet repetition insisted otherwise. The same glyphs, shapes, arrangements appearing over disparate geographies, unconnected weathers. A curl of cirrus across Madagascar mirrored a system off the coast of Norway. It was as if someone, something was writing on the sky. At the center of the team was Dr. Lysander Hume, a linguist turned symbolist with a controversial thesis that early alphabets were derivative, not generative. That is, borrowed from something more ancient than civilization itself. It was Hume who first insisted the cloud formations were not arbitrary. He mapped them against ancient Semitic roots, Proto-Sanskrit ideograms, even the abstract geometry of Mayan glyphs. A language emerged. Not spoken, not written, but expressed in moisture and air, in color and refraction, carried by the wind and sculpted by sunlight. The clouds were speaking. The first successful translation was chilling in its elegance. He who interprets the sky writes the fate of the ground. The lab went silent for 3 days. Half the team resigned. One threw herself into a lake. The rest dug in. They called it the Nephil code. The next few messages were more pointed. Warnings, instructions, vague admonitions wrapped in metaphysical allegory. Not all could be translated with certainty. There was no Rosetta Stone for divine meteorology. Then came the turning point. The clouds began to respond. Dr. Ilyana Kravets, a Ukrainian physicist with a poet's soul, had suggested a controlled release of vapor into the sky based on counterglyph structures. She engineered a way to broadcast messages upward. The response was immediate. Above the lab, for precisely 7 minutes, the sky formed a perfect spiral of cumulus script. It said you are not authorized to instruct, only to heed. Faith and science finally collided like thunderheads. The religious communities splintered. Some cried miracle, others blasphemy. The Vatican declared a moratorium on discussing cloud phenomena, then quietly sent emissaries to Alberta. Islamic scholars debated hadith interpretations regarding signs in the heavens. A prominent Protestant televangelist claimed it proved Jesus was an atmospheric entity, sparking both revival and riot. But politicians saw what they always saw: utility. If the clouds could reveal wisdom, then perhaps they could guide policy, resource distribution, military movements, economic timing. The Nephil Institute, as it was now known, received unprecedented funding. Rival states set up their own decoding systems. The skies were scanned, mapped, tracked with obsession, and the clouds changed. Once merely passive bearers of cryptic counsel, they grew assertive. Patterns became longer, more explicit, at times reactive. A Chinese satellite sent a signal resembling a mockery of the glyphs. A week later, 3 monsoons collided over Shanghai in a freak convergence, killing thousands. The sky wrote Mach, not the veil. For the first time in modern history, airspace was not only regulated by international treaties, but by superstition, dressed in scientific clothing. Artists and musicians began watching the skies for inspiration. Some fell into mania, unable to look away, obsessed with interpreting every twist of vapor. A new form of psychosis emerged: nephilignosis, a delusional belief that one's life was being directly narrated by clouds. Others built religions. One of the most prominent, the Order of the Windlet Word, combined Eastern mysticism with modern data analysis. They prophesied a coming alignment, a message so vast it would take the entire sky to tell it. It came on a March day in the American Midwest. Stretching from coast to coast, an unbroken band of lenticular clouds formed a glyph chain that lasted 11 hours. Supercomputers translated it over the following week. The message was simple. Heed the last warning. That's when the disappearances began. First, the Pacific algae bloom vanished. Then, the bees in Bavaria. Livestock in Kenya turned toward the horizon at sunrise and walked until they collapsed. Children in Sweden stopped dreaming. Then a whisper emerged from the Antarctic feed. Satellite audio, meant to capture glacial shifts, recorded a hum, rhythmic and structured, the same cadence as the cloud glyphs. Return to silence, it said. But silence had become alien to man. The Nefel Institute, now global and sovereign, refused to cease transmissions. Instead, they built airborne arrays to decode and respond faster. Cloud seeding operations became communication nodes, a sky full of antennas. The messages grew darker. All watchers will be watched. You breached the wind-written covenant. We gave voice for wisdom, not command. Floods began to strike in sequence, mimicking binary rhythms. Each cataclysm mirrored a glyph. Some saw this as punishment, others, bizarrely, as dialogue. One faction, calling themselves the *Skyrites*, sought to negotiate. They claimed the clouds were not divine, but ancient artificial intelligences, a pre-human weather-based consciousness seated before Eden. The Vatican condemned them. They persisted. Their final attempt was bold, a worldwide synchronized vapor pattern using aircraft, spelling an apology and a plea for instruction. The sky turned black for 3 days, then came the final message. This plane is rescinded. Within weeks, atmospheric anomalies reversed prevailing wind patterns. Jet streams collapsed. Weather became erratic, then still. Rain stopped. Crops failed. Birds lost their navigation. Then, gradually, the clouds ceased altogether. The world without clouds was not just dry, it was deadened. A vast sunlit emptiness. Temperatures soared, forests ignited, rivers withdrew into silence, and through it all, the sky remained a blank, wordless dome. Civilizations tried to atone. Rituals, sacrifices, silent days. The Nefel Institute disbanded itself in a televised suicide pact. Others rebuilt their cities underground. But the clouds did not return. Only once, years later, did they speak again. A single formation over an empty Icelandic plain. A single glyph, fragile and translucent. Wait, and so they wait still. Above them, the sky watches, but says no more.